So in this video, I'm going to give you my non-spoiler review for Bright, and we're starting right now. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Ryan, and this is where I review movies and shows from a variety of different platforms to help you manage your expectations so you're not left disappointed. And if you haven't already, why don't you go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything along the way. So Bright is David Ayer's latest movie starring Will Smith and Joel Edgerton. It follows these two LA cops as they stumble across a dangerous weapon, and it is their desperate attempt to keep that weapon out of the wrong people's hands. Now, all of this takes place in a world that looks just like mine and yours, with one key difference. It just happens to be populated by orcs, elves, and fairies. Now, I know that sounds absolutely ludicrous, but just bear with me for a second because that's one of the best parts of the entire movie. You see, David Ayer has been able to create a fantasy world that fits perfectly within our own. Within the first 15 minutes of the movie, he has introduced you to orc culture, he has established a social hierarchy, and he has built 2,000 years worth of history, all while putting the plot in motion and exposing you to the context for Ward and Jacoby's relationship. One thing I love about David Ayer's directing is his choice in music. You know, say what you want to about Suicide Squad, but the songs he selected for those characters fit their personalities. And the way he uses music here is also very similar. Now, the best example of this is just to look at the opening credits, because by the time those credits are finished rolling, not only do you have me completely buying into this world you've created, but you've also set the tone for the entire movie moving forward. Now, you can't talk about this movie without at least addressing the performances. Will Smith does a great job of portraying Ward, a seasoned LAPD officer that has reluctantly assigned Jacoby as his partner. Now, Jacoby is the very first orc ever to be hired on to the LAPD, which means there's a lot of racial tension between himself and his fellow officers. Now, one of the things that really make the movie work is the chemistry between Will Smith and Joel Edgerton. And as great as Will Smith was, I have to say the standout performance is Joel Edgerton. He really brought personality to the character of Jacoby. And if I was to describe this character to you, I would have to say he comes across as a little bit naive and very eager to please, which can sometimes be tragic because he's not always given a fair shake. Now, humor isn't a huge beat throughout this movie, but I will say there was a couple of times the two of them made me laugh, and normally those instances revolve around Jacoby. Speaking of Jacoby, one of the major themes of Bright is racial inequality. Now, I'm really glad David Ayer chose to include those elements in his story because it really adds to the lived-in feel of it all. The problem is it can come across as a bit heavy-handed at times. Specifically, there's this one scene that was just so over the top and confrontational that it pulled me out of the story. Now, to be clear, my problem isn't that this kind of racism existed. My problem is it was the only kind of racism that existed. Everybody hated Jacoby and hated him violently. The other problem I had was the racism we see seems to be very exclusive and directed toward orcs and no one else. And that just hasn't been my experience. It seems to me like prejudice exists against a variety of different people on a variety of different levels. And if they would have added that complexity to the story, it would have made it feel that much more real. Also, there are some pieces to this story that are just irrelevant. Two characters specifically. Now, as much as I enjoyed their performances and those characters, the truth is if you completely take them out of the story, it doesn't change anything. But on a more positive note, I wouldn't mind seeing a spinoff with them. Now, the last negative I'll mention is something I actually heard from another review, but after seeing the movie, I really couldn't disagree with it. And that's that the villain was a little bit weak. Now, to be honest with you, she could have came across as menacing and mysterious, but the truth is they just didn't give her a lot to do. I don't think she even has a whole lot of dialogue in the movie. So instead, she just comes across as a plot detail. Now, a lot of people are really trashing on this movie. They didn't like it at all, but I got to be honest with you, I really enjoyed it. So my recommendation to you is to take 2 hours, sit down, get comfortable, pop some popcorn, and enjoy Bright. So what do you think about a Bright spinoff or sequel? Why don't you jump in the comment section below and let me know? And as always, if you made it to this point in the video, that means you must have liked it. So why don't you go ahead and give it a thumbs up? Check out some of my other videos off to the side here. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button before you leave so you're kept up to date next time I get ready to upload a new video.